In 1992, Hurricane Andrew wreaked havoc across Mississippi, tearing through the Northeast. Amid the chaos, a 13-year-old girl vanished, allegedly abducted and possibly murdered by a callous criminal who took advantage of the storm's cover. Today, we delve into the disappearance of Leigh Occhi. Leigh Occhi was born on August 21, 1979, to Donald Occhi and Vickie Felton. Both parents were military personnel, and following their 1981 divorce, Donald was frequently relocated. Despite the distance, he maintained a close bond with his daughter, visiting whenever possible. Leigh, originally from Honolulu, Hawaii, later settled with her mother in Pearl, Mississippi. In late August 1992, as torrential rain and fierce winds lashed Tupelo, Leigh, afraid of the storm, slept in her mother's bed. The next morning, they shared breakfast and planned their day. Leigh was scheduled to attend an open house at her middle school with her grandmother, as the new semester had not yet commenced. Later that evening, Vickie and Leigh planned to dine out together. Vickie departed for work around 7:30 a.m., a significant moment as it marked the first time her 13-year-old daughter, Leigh, would be home alone. Upon arriving at work, Vickie learned from the news that Hurricane Andrew was approaching their area. Concerned, she called home to check on Leigh but received no answer. Growing increasingly anxious, she tried again with the same result. Sensing something was amiss, Vickie left work at 8:30 a.m. and rushed back to their home at 105 Honey Locust Drive. Arriving at the house, Vickie noticed the garage door was open and its light was on, a feature that activated only when the door was recently opened. Another door into the house was unlocked, which was unusual as Vickie had carefully secured the house before leaving. Panic rising, she searched every room, calling out Leigh's name, but received no response. Upon entering the house, Vickie was met with a disturbing scene: a pool of blood on the floor and splatters of blood up the wall. Hurrying to Leigh's room, she found her favorite blanket discarded in a crumpled heap on the floor. In a panic, she immediately called 911, desperately requesting assistance. Her daughter was missing, and there was evidence of blood throughout the house. Upon arrival, the police conducted a thorough investigation, but found no signs of forced entry, suggesting Leigh may have voluntarily opened the door for someone. Further searches inside revealed more blood, including a notable pool in the hallway. Blood was also discovered in Leigh's bedroom, the bathroom, and smeared on her bedroom door. The blood was still wet, and the pattern of splatters and hair strands on the doorframe indicated a significant head injury to an individual approximately 5 feet tall. Leigh herself was 4 feet 10 inches tall. The presence of blood in the bathroom suggested that whoever was in the house that morning had attempted to clean up after the incident. Based on the mounting evidence, the police concluded that Leigh had likely been murdered inside the home. During their search of Leigh's bedroom, Vickie informed them that several significant items were missing, including Leigh's shoes, underwear, a sleeping bag, and her glasses. In the laundry basket, they discovered Leigh's blood-stained nightgown, indicating that she had been wearing different clothing when she either left the house or was abducted. Chief of Police Bartow Query, leading the investigation, emphasized the significance of the blood-stained nightgown found in the laundry basket. Because it appeared that the blood had dripped down onto her nightgown, it suggests that the injury likely occurred above the neck, he noted, highlighting a critical detail in understanding what might have transpired with Leigh. The police swiftly organized search teams across Tupelo in a frantic effort to locate Leigh. They disseminated her description: 4 feet 10 inches tall, 95 pounds, with blonde hair and hazel eyes. Despite scouring the woodlands and nearby areas, they found no sign of her. The inclement weather hampered efforts, as search dogs were unable to pick up her scent. In the early 1990s, although DNA testing was not yet advanced, investigators relied on blood typing. They determined that the blood found at the scene was type O. Interviews were conducted extensively across Tupelo, involving Leigh's family, friends, classmates, neighbors, and teachers. Despite these efforts, the police were unable to gather credible leads in the case. Rick Hammond, a crime reporter for the Daily Journal, said, "The first few days, it was very frenzied in terms of trying to find out if she might be alive somewhere, injured, looking for places she might have been hidden, injured, lost. Donald, Leigh's father, stationed out of state in Virginia at the time of her disappearance, expressed his profound anger and sorrow. "This coward must have thought they were tough to harm a little girl," he lamented. He often reflected on Leigh's likely terror during the brutal attack and her heartbreaking struggle. The small city of Tupelo found itself thrust into a media frenzy following Leigh's disappearance. Known as the hometown of Elvis Presley, Tupelo now garnered attention for a much darker reason. It was a community where residents traditionally felt safe leaving their doors unlocked, proud of its strong sense of unity and local pride. Rick Hammond expressed the community's desire for reassurance that Leigh's disappearance wasn't at the hands of a stranger breaking into a home to abduct a girl. Donald Occhi described Leigh as a smart and sweet child, emphasizing her close bond with him. "She was a daddy's kid like all little girls are. She loved hugs, pizza, and dogs." The disappearance of Leigh Occhi had deeply shaken this once idyllic city. She was a familiar type of girl to everyone. A week after she went missing, a McDonald's worker reported seeing a girl resembling Leigh in the drive-thru. The police pursued this lead promptly, but it turned out to be a false alarm. Rumors began to swirl around Vickie's ex-boyfriend, Barney Yarbrough. He and Vickie had recently ended their relationship, and Barney had allegedly been abusive towards Leigh Occhi. Reports indicated that Leigh Occhi had arrived at school with a black eye and bruises, though this was not corroborated. Investigators immediately pulled Barney in for questioning. However, he provided a substantiated alibi and passed a polygraph test. The police were back at square one. On September 9th, 2 weeks after Leigh Occhi vanished from her home, a package arrived at the house. It was an 8-inch envelope addressed to Barney Yarbrough, Vickie's ex-boyfriend, with the return address matching the mailing address. Inside were glasses believed to have been taken from the house on the day she disappeared. The postmark indicated it was sent from nearby Boonville. After this, the FBI was brought in to assist with the investigation. The glasses were sent to the state crime lab in Jackson for handwriting and DNA analysis. They attempted to extract DNA from the stamps on the envelope, but water had been used instead of saliva. The police chief believed the glasses had been mailed in an attempt to divert the investigation. Several locals told Donald to look more closely at Vickie. He commented, saying, "I was already doing that. I don't know if her mother was involved." The police soon turned their attention to Vickie as part of the investigation. She underwent 3 separate polygraph tests, 1 with the chief of police and 2 with the FBI. Independent examiners analyzing the results stated that she had shown signs of deception in every single test. In a 2017 interview, the police chief said, "You still can't eliminate her. There are still too many unanswered questions." Vickie remarked, "Is it unusual for somebody to go off to work and say, 'Well, I just left Leigh Occhi, but I'm going to call and check on her'? Why check on her that soon after she just left her?" In a 2012 interview with the Daily Journal, Vickie said that Leigh Occhi would never have opened the door to a stranger, so anyone Leigh Occhi let in must have been someone she recognized and trusted. The person she suspects is involved with her daughter's disappearance lived just a mile away from them, was a Bible school teacher, and shared Leigh Occhi's passion for horses at the stables just off North Thomas Street. A man called Oscar McKinley Carnes. 9 months after Leigh Occhi vanished from her home, Carnes abducted a girl he met through a church in Tupelo. She was alone at her house around 7 a.m. when he arrived under the guise of taking her to school. Instead, he drove her to a secluded area in DeSoto County and subjected her to horrific and prolonged sexual assaults. He then drove her to school, where she reported him to the police. He was convicted and sentenced to 24 years in prison, suspended for 16. After serving less than 4 years in custody, he was freed. He was again convicted in 1999 for kidnapping a couple and sexually assaulting the woman. On November 9, 1993, the Clarion Ledger reported that a skull had been found in a ditch in Monroe County and identified as Leigh Occhi. A few days later, this was retracted after further testing revealed it to be the remains of Pollyanna Sue Keith, who had gone missing in March of that year. In 2009, Vickie Occhi, Leigh Occhi's mother, stated that she would not accept anything as certain and would hold on to hope that Leigh was alive until her body was found. Despite the suspicious circumstances surrounding Leigh Occhi's disappearance, no trace of her has ever been discovered. Her father, Donald, expressed doubt, saying, "I don't know if we will ever find out what happened."